Hey, it's Thomas here, and today we're doing a quick review on the Neat Aquatics RO Tubing Brackets. If you want to make sure that your RODI tubing doesn't become a jumbled mess, want to be able to silence the extra noise caused by booster pumps, be able to turn a valve with one hand, or even clean up the tubing from your dosing system or calcium reactor, then Neat Aquatics has the super affordable solution that you're after. It is so much better than anything I've used in the past for this job. A mess of tubing, pipes, and plumbing fittings is par for the course when it comes to reefing unless you put some real effort into keeping things neat and tidy. It can pretty easily get out of hand and turn into a convoluted tangle of indecipherable tubes, which makes it pretty hard to do any kind of maintenance or make any changes if you need to. A clean installation of tubing and plumbing is not only a heck of a lot nicer to look at, but ultimately makes the system easier to visually understand, keep track of, and maintain. If you ever need to splice in something new or troubleshoot any kind of an issue, having everything neatly laid out and easy to follow makes a massive difference. And not only for your plumbing on your tank, but also for your RODI system. Neat Aquatics is on a mission to make jumbled tubing a thing of the past with their RO tubing brackets. These things are great, they're affordable, and as simple as they are, have a ton of thought and intention behind the design, making them a dream for any aquarist that wants to clean up their 1/4-inch tubing. Inside of each pack, you'll find 5 tubing brackets and 10 mounting screws. They're available in 4 sizes: a single tube, double tube, triple tube, and quad tube. The brackets come stuck together and you actually just snap them apart to separate them, which is pretty neat, and also means that any extras you don't use are stuck together and don't get lost if you decide to put them in a drawer. Screws for each clip are also included, so you can mount them to your stand or control board or the wall or anywhere else that screws would be handy. Like other Neat Aquatics gear, these tubing brackets are made with high quality 3D printing using completely reef safe materials. And much like the Urchin and Limpet that I covered previously, the fit and finish on these is brilliant and sets the bar high for 3D printed components. But like any small part installed with screws, I highly recommend tightening the screws by hand rather than with power tools to prevent over tightening. Getting that screw just snugged up is all you need. They're designed to work perfectly with 1/4-inch RO tubing and have a very satisfying click when snapping them into the tubing bracket. The tubing snaps back out easily as well, which comes in handy if you ever want to remove the tubes to do maintenance or add new components. The brackets do hold the tubes quite snugly in place, but you can still slide the tubing up or down with a little bit of resistance, making small adjustments possible even after the tubing has been installed. I did try some silicone and standard airline and doser tubing to see how well it would hold, and while it did hold inside of the bracket, it pops out a little bit too easily for my taste, but I do have an awesome workaround for that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. The screw holes in the brackets are tapered at the top to accommodate the flat screw heads so that they sit perfectly flush, which is a really nice detail that just adds to that slick finished look. And the standoff height of the bracket allows for fittings like unions to be added without them being pressed against the wall, keeping the run of tubing perfectly straight and making sure there is no pressure against the fitting. Personally, I love the idea of cleaning up the RODI tubing around the tank so you don't just have tubes dangling over the sink, but one thing these are excellent at is minimizing vibrations and excess noise when you're using a booster pump. As an example, I do use a booster pump, and on more than one occasion, a stray piece of tubing would be touching the wall or another surface like the sink, and as the booster pump ran, it would just be tapping and clicking against that surface, which would get really annoying, and these clips have completely eliminated that by holding the tubing firmly in place so it can't jiggle around and smack stuff. Neat Aquatics also makes brackets for other Murloc fittings like 90s, unions, and ball valves, which can be used to elegantly navigate the tubing where it needs to go or splice things in and still have them held firmly in place with the rest of the tubing. I love the valve bracket. It's a small touch, but not having to hold the valve in one hand to keep it steady and turn it with the other is a nice change. Just one hand, reach out, turn the valve, just feels right. Not going to try to move out of the way because it's just dangling on a piece of tubing. As I mentioned earlier, these brackets are also a great option for dosers, calcium reactors, and similar setups for a cleaner, more organized install, giving you more options for color coding your lines and allowing you to use more robust tubing that is much less likely to get kinked, pinched, or poked. Just grab a set of the 1/4-inch Murloc stem adapters and unions and use the barbed end to go from your soft tubing to the union, and then you can plug your RO tubing into the other end of that union and use RO tubing throughout the rest of the setup, which is exactly what I'll be doing if I set up that calcium reactor I'm thinking about. Not 100% on it, but ooh, very tempted. Now, if I do go with a calcium reactor, I'm definitely going to follow the easy mode for calcium reactor setup that Ryan has talked about in the past. He explains how you can do it in this video right here. I think I've said it before, this video changed the way I looked at calcium reactors. I used to feel like they were super complicated and finicky, and that is definitely not the case. Much simpler than that. Go have a watch. Man, I'm tempted.